limb, he learned how to channel spirits from the flood. And so there are, through blood sacrifice, through pedophilia, through all of these things, these artists can welcome one of those old ones. Now, who are the old ones? These are the spirits from the angels that came down in Genesis 6, came down, mated with men, created beings. Those beings, God flooded the earth to destroy them. Some of them were 30 feet tall. Now, if you got a 30 foot tall being, he's going to get everybody's worship, And so these guys were I say guys, but these spirits were used to, or these Nephilim were used to getting praise and worship. They were gods, like Greek mythology and Roman mythology and even Yoruba mythology. These are all superhumans with superpowers, where they were half human, half angelic from another realm. Well, God drowned all of them during the flood. That's what the flood was for. That's why nobody could get in the ark with Noah, because everyone's blood was contaminated by this that had happened. And so nobody could get on the ark but Noah and his family, right? And so those, when they lost their bodies, their spirits were hybrid. So they can't go to heaven. They can't go to hell. They roam the earth. And that's why the Bible said they roam they look for dry places. They're roaming the earth and they're looking for hosts. That was the creation of demons. They're not fallen angels. They're actually spirits, disembodied spirits. And so they're looking for bodies.
Now it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, of all whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with men forever. For he is indeed flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children with them. So with that clip from Pastor Craig G. Lewis of EX Ministries, we get a brief idea of why that era of I don't know if we call them humans, but they had to be destroyed. It was because they were a hybrid. This was a production of the angels or the spirits and actual human beings, and then they produced children, so there was no pure bloodline. People were half spirits and half humans. So that is why God decided, as we read through Genesis 6 verse 7, So the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I've made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of God. So Noah had found grace in the eyes of God and was most likely still of a pure bloodline. He came from humans, and that's why we read in the previous verse, chapter 5, you can see who his father was and who his great parents were. You can see his lineage, and everything in the Bible is written for a reason. So you see who he came from. His bloodline was pure. He was still a human being, unlike the people who were offspring of the spirits and human beings. So now let's take a closer look in the Ethiopic Bible and see in more detail what actually had happened. So Enoch was the great-grandfather to Noah. He did not experience death, but was taken up to heaven. So there were 200 angels. This was what was shown to Enoch. There were 200 angels called watchers, and this was the name of their leader. They were brought on earth from heaven to observe and to watch humankind on earth. but they lusted after the daughters of mankind. They found them beautiful, they found them attractive. And so they came together and made a pact to defile the daughters of mankind. They taught them how to use herbs, enchantments, plants, and roots. So the daughters of mankind gave birth to giants because they were half spirits and half human. And the giants needed to nourish themselves, and the food they had was not enough. So they decided to eat other human beings. They ate other human beings, they ate mankind because these beings are huge. But they also began to sin against animals, fish, and any other beast they could find. And they blamed the devil for all of that, forgetting that God could see what they had done, and they had lost their status as angels because they had sinned against God. And so most of the beings on earth were not purely human. There'd been this admixture of spirit and human or mankind. And the Watchers had lost their status as angels because of what they had done. And God refused to forgive them because they were once majestic heavenly beings, and they chose to sin so greatly against him and also give human beings forbidden knowledge. So most of the things that we know today was knowledge passed down from them. So they started first with teaching humans plants, how to use plants, herbs, and enchantments and spells and all that sort of thing, which was something most people were not aware of before that. So with this, God had to wipe out most of his creation, which were both animals and human beings, because most of them were not pure and they were causing chaos on earth by killing other people and eating other people. And the animals as well had to be wiped out because they had been sinned against. So very few animals which went into the ark were okay. The rest had been sinned against by the admixture of the spirits and the humans. And that is why God had to wipe all of that out. And it's from the same passing down of knowledge that we have things like spells, like which leaf or which herb works for what spell. If you want to attract riches, if you want to attract this, you mix this and this together, mix this plant, mix that plant, use this stone, charge this crystal for this. That's where most of that knowledge comes from. And when people say this stems from evil, most people disagree and say it was the way of their ancestors, but this is where people were taught and it was passed on from generation to generation, and yet people keep accusing other people of demonizing their culture, and this is where the knowledge came from. And it's spread to every race, every culture, everything, but this is where it stems from.